All right, this is the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carbajal here, as always, with Matthew Hawkins. The week after UFC 258 and the Valentine's Day and all that other good stuff, we still have the same welterweight champion that we had last week in Kamaru Usman. Other than that, the card kind of shrank a little bit between the Friday we recorded and what we got on Saturday night. So. I know we were a little bit critical of it, but before we move on, make sure you check out allaccessmma.com for all your MMA news. www.allaccessmma.com. All right, Matt. So, what'd you think?
I was entertained. Um,
Yeah.
if I'm grading it on a pay-per-view level, I'm giving it like a high 6. I
Mm.
mean, just because of some of the name value, but um, we didn't break down the whole card. We kind of just went through it last week, but we had mentioned last minute that Bobby Green versus Jim Miller was pulled. Turns out Bobby Green had some issues with his kidneys, I guess, which obviously is not good news for somebody whose career requires weight cutting. I'm not obviously not a doctor, but
Yeah.
I think when kidney problems start arising, that's usually a sign that something's not right.
Yeah, it was weird because
Obviously,
the UFC updated. First, they mentioned like a kidney failure, then they just said deemed medically unfit to compete on the website. When I was doing my 7 takeaways for MMA news, that's what they said. But I mean, it was. I mean, the one thing we do know is that he collapsed after weigh-ins. So, I
hmm
mean, I guess in this day of new normal or whatever you want to call it, it's better. Definitely when it comes to fighting, where they're going to hurt each other anyway. Better to be safe than sorry. And then the Jillian Robinson Miranda Maverick fight got pulled the day of the event because of it said Robinson had COVID related issues. I thought it said it was, but
illness.
I,
Yeah, I
I
saw
might have.
non-COVID. I'm assuming that also had to do with rehydrating and something to do with her weight cut,
Mm,
where it just threw her system off. So, I mean, we could get into it forever. One of these days, we'll get Doc Lucas back on the show
yeah,
and talk about kind of the lack of change that we've seen really over the last couple years since we started doing this podcast and kind of talked about that.
yeah. I mean, it's not unheard of for us to lose fights, like whether there's a pandemic going on or not. I mean, firsthand. What was it, UFC 213 when you went into to see Nunez fight somebody?
Yeah, that was Nunez Shevchenko.
Yeah,
Supposed to be their rematch. Yeah, that dropped out, and um, yeah, I mean, it's just something that,
UFC 208 changed
yeah,
like 3 times in one
dude,
week.
yeah. I mean, we could, we go through a lot. The weight cutting thing, I don't feel like I've been a victim as far as buying a ticket to too many weight cutting issues. Well, Khabib, I missed out on Khabib Ferguson. Uh, at UFC 209 and then 213. So yeah, there was a little run there where it wasn't great, but we'll see what happens. They're gonna have to figure something out. We say this every time, and they don't, but sadly, something very
it's
tragic is going to
it,
happen eventually, and that'll force them to move their hand.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're more prepared for it at Fight Island than when they're home, which is weird because the whole reason Fight Island exists is because of like how hard it is to get stuff together with everything going on. But like when they were gonna have Khabib and Gaethje, they had Chandler in as a backup. I mean, I guess you can't have a backup fighter for every single fight, but you know, again, you would think they would. I don't know.
There's no real way
Yeah,
around it.
yeah.
I mean, we're lucky when they claim to have a backup fighter for a main event, but you can't, like you said, there's no way with 10, 12, 15 fights on a weekly card you could ever pull it off. Not with the schedule they're keeping now. I mean, if it was one event a month, then you could
Mhm.
work having some guys ready. But I mean, the problem is when it's the lower ranked guys, who's going to step in? Like Jim Miller doesn't gain a whole lot by taking a last minute opponent. He's a veteran of the game. He's earned his spot. Some kid taking that thing off the Contender Series to fight Jim Miller and doesn't really do a whole lot for Jim Miller. It's kind of lose lose at that point. I mean, you don't really, especially when
Yeah.
It likely would have been dropped on the prelims anyway. But anyways, for the fights that happened, the ones that jumped out, Polyana Viana picked up a nice armbar win over Mallory Martin. I know you're a big fan of Martin, and she usually brings the fight. But
Yeah, that was I mean she still brought the fight. She just I don't know if she well, because there was a lot of things she could have done, to escape that. She was doing a lot of things, but it just seemed like I mean, that's funny. That's the first one you mentioned because that was the one that had me yelling at my TV the most because the way she I mean, it's easier to sit at home and analyze it than be there taking the shots and stuff like that. So I'm not knocking Mallory Martin for picking up that loss, but her arms, like the way she had her hands when she was in there, a simple adjustment of keeping the inside arm inside would have kind of helped prevent the armbar because it looked like she was doing there is a last ditch triangle escape and it looked like she was trying to do it, but the thing is if your hands are reversed and the inside arm can still get pulled out, then you have to worry about the armbar. So it is what it is. I mean, in the moment when you're getting punched in the face, I mean, there's definitely a difference when you're grappling without, a full fight going on versus MMA rules. So I actually, I had her. I think when we did the pick, I had her pick to win. I was I was cheering for her, but I mean, I was definitely impressed with the submission.
yeah, and from a novice point of view, like it almost looked like a double arm bar. She kind of hit it because I didn't see it initially. Um, I didn't see her arm caught. It was but it was so tight and compact. It looked like she kind of hit it well, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, it's just there. But
yeah, it's hard to explain because she was trying to do like usually when someone has you in an armbar and the last ditch effort escape that it looked like she was trying to do, you have to put their thighs are up around like if your arm is like here and this is where the choke is happening. So if you flatten the thigh against the ground and then you you palm to palm, but the hand that's inside has to have a hand over it, and then you kind of like put them on their side and sprawl out and do the kind of like this while you're sprawling.
mhm,
You can
mhm,
drive forward and you drive into them. They'll likely take your back, but you're not getting triangled anymore. But
gotcha.
it looked like she kept. So I saw 2 points in the fight, from what I'm remembering anyway. She kept flipping her to that side. I had it recorded on my DVR. And I watched it again on Sunday, and she kept trying to put her thigh on the ground. Like I think I counted 2 times if I'm remembering right. But like I said, that the distraction on top of getting hit because she was getting hit was that she had her hands reversed, which made it easy, especially with the gloves. It's easy to get control of a limb because you have this long limb and then there's a ball at the end because of the 4-ounce glove. So it's easy for them to kind of slide to the end and pull it and yank it a little more. So
Hmm.
that was what I noticed about it because she's definitely. I mean, you could tell she didn't want to tap, and if you watch any girls MMA fight, they're definitely a little more. They definitely tap a little later than dudes
Yeah,
do.
the flexibility on their smaller
Yeah,
limbs is definitely pretty
they're
hardcore.
just tougher than us.
Yeah. An interesting note for Polyana Viana is that's her second win in a row by armbar, which is kind of rare in 2021, and it's her third fight in a row where an armbar was involved. 3 fights ago, she lost by an armbar. So,
Mm.
uh, so everything she's done since August of 2019 is involved in armbar. Which, if she learned from the loss, the armbar and was able to turn that around and use it in her last couple fights, it's good for development. Like I think Boss Rutan's the one who said, it's not bad to get caught. It's just not good to get caught in the same thing over and over and over again. So um, big win for her. 2 wins in a row, and Martin is obviously it doesn't have the greatest record in the world, but she's a tough girl that'll end up beating some people here in the near
Oh yeah,
future.
no, she's definitely got star power behind her. I mean, I know we're gonna move up to the main event stuff eventually, but it's she's got that same attitude that Macy Barber, who we're gonna get to later. Like there's something about them, what they bring. They have a fan base that follows them. So, the losses are lessons, and they're definitely both going to learn from the ones they picked up at 258. But there's only 3 submissions the whole night, and that was one of them. And the other big one was the one that if you bet on Anthony Hernandez versus Rodolfo Vieira, I mean that was another fight that had me yelling at the TV, just because I was almost like, I know he picked up his submission win over the guy that was supposed to submit him, Anthony Hernandez, but I was just I was kind of like, you're doing so well, why not just go for the knockout? But I guess he wanted that feather in his cap or something.
Yeah, I mean, when you're fighting what did they say? He was like 7-time world champion, Rodolfo Vieira. Um, it's one of those things where, I mean, it was completely unexpected. I think the odds makers had it anywhere from like 23-1 to 30-1
Yeah.
on Anthony Hernandez winning by armbar or by submission. It had no, and he ended up winning by a arm and guillotine choke. Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to, I mentioned Doc Lewis earlier. He actually texted me that day, and when that fight was going on, he was like, "Holy crap, Anthony Hernandez is, threatening with that, with the submissions." And I go, "Oh, he keeps doing it." And as we were texting back and forth, he got the tap, and big win for Anthony Hernandez. His attitude afterwards was kind of, I don't know. I guess he's a fighter. You're a fighter. It's the mood, but I felt like he kind of was downplaying what he had done, and and I don't think that necessarily gains you anything. If somebody wants to give you accolades for tapping out one of the better submission people on the planet, I don't see any reason to go, well, it doesn't fucking matter. I think it was something like that was his words, So, that doesn't, I would rather him go, holy shit, dude's accoladed out the ass, and I was able to to do it. And that's the difference between MMA and jiu-jitsu. You start beating somebody up, and you go from a black belt to a blue belt pretty quick when you're tasting your own blood.
Yeah, that fight was a perfect example of that. And that's actually why I picked on my Sherdog picks, I picked him to win, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look back at when they posted it, but I picked him to win because of that. Because we've seen it time and time again where these really good jiu-jitsu guys, they tap everybody for a while as they climb up the ranks in their MMA career, and then when they get to somebody that's like Hernandez said, he weathered the storm in the beginning of that fight, which he got taken down pretty easily, got his back taken, and he defended the submission, but once he got back and he landed the blows that were disturbing enough to Vieira, we saw him saying that he looked like he was tired. I mean, I think he was just kind of out on his feet, and then the confusion of how do I deal with the pain of the shots that I'm taking. Again, I was just frustrated that like you said, even shout out to Doc Lucas talking to you about it, noticing he kept going for the anacondas and the chokes, and I was just like, even his corner, you could hear his corner yell, reset, and it's like he could have gotten a pretty good knockout finish, but it was still and that's actually one of my favorite submissions from Turtle, the one he got, the head and arm guillotine. So
it earned him a $50,000 bonus too. If he gets a TKO win, that the chances of that bonus is cut drastically. The way the flash and the way he's able to get it is big for him, and he moves to 8-2, and obviously major feather in his cap. Bilal Muhammad picked up the win over Diego Lima. I think we kind of both saw this fight going this way. Lima obviously brings it every fight, but they talk about levels to this, and Bilal Muhammad is I think underrated. I said it last week, and I think he just kind of proves it. Fighting these, I'm not saying he goes out there and he wipes the floor with the top, 5 of the division, but I think he, wins 30 fights in a row if he's just fighting guys ranked, 20 to 30. I think he's just better than all those guys, and he pretty much proved it. So big win for Muhammad. He moves to 18-3. I mean, at some point, he's going to get another big fight and a chance to prove, a top 10 ranking. Another one of the good fights of the night. One we disagreed on the pick. It ended my way late with about 50 seconds left, 45 seconds left. But Julian Marquez picks up a win over Maki Pitolo, a fight he was losing. losing a close fight, competitive fight, but a fight that he was losing up until he got the tap with the anaconda choke with 45 seconds left, and then of course he made the rounds through social media and the world by his call out of Miley Cyrus for
and then messed it up on Valentine's Day.
It seems that way. I just saw something posted where he might be working with her as like in some kind of charity way. So
I don't know about that, but I saw. I mean, listen, not for nothing. If the girl, if you put it out there and she bites, and then she all she says is do X, Y, and Z, and you don't do it, then you messed up.
Yeah, I don't know if he's working
I
with her.
didn't
I
even
don't
know she
know.
was single because I thought she was married to Hemsworth. But then, of course, I had to look it up because I happen to think Miley Cyrus is not too hard on the eyes either. But I mean, not that I'm calling her out or anything because I wouldn't. But I mean, he's in a position, and hey, listen, they're supposed to be doing something with Barstool Sports for the Barstool.
Yeah,
Sports.
that's what I'm saying. It looks like something good's coming out of it. Where
Yeah.
they. So, like I said, it's Barstool Sports. I think he's something about shaving the hair on his chest. I think he's working it into a way. So,
But you could have done it that night, and then had you guys could.
Dude, we're both single at 42. I'm not gonna go after the dude too hard, but yeah. I just if something works out and he was able to bring a name like Miley Cyrus into the world with Barstool Sports and they're able to raise money for people and whatever charity or businesses, whatever. If good comes from it, then all power to him. I don't think anybody's really says much bad about Marquez. I met the dude; he was super friendly, and in my 30-second pass by with him a couple years back, but yeah, I mean, big win for him. For after the long layoff and an anaconda choke. We talking about these submissions on the prelims and a choke you don't really see very often anymore. I mean, you've never really seen a whole lot, but that's why these submissions are so cool. I talked about this weeks ago, with the triangles and stuff. When you start seeing this, it reminds you that it's mixed martial arts. It's not just wrestling and punch somebody in the face. And that's why when you start seeing the submissions, especially the rarer ones happen, I think it's kind of cool. So big win for Julian Marquez. Ricky Simone picks up a unanimous decision over Brian Kelleher. Pretty much domination start to finish. Simone looks like that he's rebounded from his Faber loss of, a year and a half, 2 years ago almost now, and seems to be establishing himself. Like Muhammad, moves his record to 18-3, and seems to be improving every single fight, which is obviously an important factor when you're talking about somebody who's only 28 years old and working their way up the ranks. The constant improvement. It puts him on a 3-fight winning streak over a couple of good names. So be interesting to see where he goes from here. I imagine he'll be looking at a top 15 fight in his next bout.
Oh yeah, he's definitely one for that's is going to go. You're going to see the main eventing, soon. I mean, he's already he was already on the main card, so that's a good sign for him. And then to pick up the win, that just means the next fight's going to be something good for him.
So that kicked off the main card of the pay-per-view, which was a late replacement. I'm sorry, the Marquez fight kicked off the pay-per-view. The Simone fight was the second fight of the card. The bigger names then start coming into play here. Kelvin Gastelum, I believe we both were kind of on the same side of this one as well. Picked up a unanimous decision in a close fight with Ian Heinisch.
Yeah.
Must win for Gastelum. Like I said, he had 3-fight losing streak coming in, four losses in a row. No matter what promotion you're fighting for is not great on your resume. So big win. Not the best performance in the world, but he picked up the win, and like I said, it was must win for him.
Yeah, I also I mean he mentioned it like he said he felt like he was fighting for his job. And I mean what the cool thing about it is, listen, I mean, I personally maybe it wasn't, the greatest, to fight to watch or whatever opinion folks might have about it. But I mean, I think it was just a sign of him getting back to where he was, because personally, I feel like he took so much damage in that Adesanya fight I mean, to get back to where you were, when you had the what was they fighting for, the interim middleweight at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think it took it. He needed a. I mean, he probably needed more time in between fights or whatever, but it looks like he's got that now. And I like that he offered to be. We were just talking about how they need to have backups. I like that he offered himself to be a backup for Paulo Costa and Robert Whitaker for April. I mean, granted, he took some damage in the fight. I don't know how hard that knee was. I think that was maybe more thigh than knee because he was going in for the shot. But he took some damage in the fight, obviously, because it went the distance and stuff. But still, I mean, he's one thing they pointed out on the broadcast that I feel like we forgot when we were talking about him last week was he's only 29. So I mean, he's entering his prime now. So I think there's still a lot of good stuff coming to see from Gastelum in the future.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, I thought he was world class even with those losses. He started really young, came out of the Ultimate Fighter kind of as a green, not super experienced. He had his weight cutting issues early on. Uh, it seems like even though slightly undersized, 185 is the weight class for him. He's able to obviously be clearly competitive in there. With the issues against some bigger dudes. But yeah, big win. And I look forward to his next fight. I imagine. I don't think the UFC will mess around with him. I think he'll get another top level fight just named
Oh
off
yeah,
based off his name value and considering his losses were all to the
yeah.
top level competition.
Maybe not in April, like maybe like June, July, but as long as they space him apart, I think we can see Kelvin Gastelum get right back to where he was.
Yeah, and like we've said in the past with COVID matchmaking, if he stays in shape and stays near weight, things can pop at any point. I don't know. Have we heard of any kind of backup for Adesanya? Well, he wouldn't step in for that one. I think we did hear a backup though. Was they say Glover Teixeira? So
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. That'll be obviously not at middleweight, but light heavyweight. The co-main event of the night. You got this one. I got this one wrong. Alexa Grasso continues to improve and starting to reach the level that I think a lot of us thought she was going to eventually get to. She was thrown to the wolves early on in her UFC career when she came over from Invicta. But as far as another younger fighter, 27 years old, her improvement, like I said with Ricky Simone, seems to just be getting better and better every fight. Her wrestling, her grappling, which was always kind of her weakness, seems to now be not nothing holding her back. She's
yeah,
I didn't see her winning this fight. I thought Barber would be able to do more. We'll see where she comes back now that this is 2 losses in a row, and she kind of gets a bye because she was coming off of that knee surgery. At least in my
yeah,
mind, she gets a fight that she gets another fight to kind of prove if she deserves to be a top contender. But when you look at Alexa Grasso, I mean. She has a win over Carolina Kolakiewicz. She suffered a tough decision loss, majority split decision to Carla Esparza, and now she's got 2 wins in a row. So, I mean, 3 out of 4 tough, good wins in 3 of those, and the one loss being a controversial decision. And if you want to go back farther, a loss to Tatiana Suarez, who's been out with injuries, but is kind of a wrestling savant, at least in the women's division, from what we saw her on the Ultimate Fighter in her early UFC fights. I see nothing on Grasso's past now. Looking at it after these last couple wins, to think that there's anything reason to hold her back at this point. I think she's ready for obviously top level competition, and if she continues to improve, I think we very well might be looking at a world champion
yeah,
in the future.
yeah. She's she doesn't do what I feel like the UFC looks for to push fighters, so she has to just pick up W's to push herself. Because she's not a big trash talker, she's pretty humble and stuff like that. So when beating someone that was doing that is a good way for her to definitely get some eyes on her. Even though I mean Dana White kind of kind of, I don't want to say he brushed off the win at the post fight press conference, but he talked more about Macy Barber still than Alexa Grasso, who won. The thing about Macy Barber though is she still, she's going to win her next fight. I said it last week when we were looking at the card. I knew she was going to lose a decision on this one, and we saw a lot of her. Like I said, she needed to do a full cycle fight camp, weigh in, fight week, fight night. Like she needed to go through that again after being off for so long. And I think we saw a lot of signs of that when the fight was happening, with the throwing attacks from social distance feet away. You know what I mean? She threw a spinning back kick at one point where it was nowhere near her, throwing punching combinations that you couldn't even call them feints if you wanted to because of how far away she was. Yeah. And like you said with Grasso, she showed improvement with her grappling and stuff. We didn't see the Macy Barber that we know that talked to, that was on the win streak until she lost until the final round, which is what makes me say she's going to win her next fight. She survived a lot, throughout the fight. So I think I know she did an interview today with Cole Shelton over at bjpen.com. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I would imagine, how often do people chase the loser of a fight to interview them about their loss? So that just goes to show you she's probably going to be on a main card, either maybe a fight night, maybe not a pay-per-view, but I'm pretty sure she wins her next fight. But like you said, it's time to start paying attention to Alexa Grasso too, because, at the end of the day, if you're not good at the marketing part with the trash talk and the, showing your booty on Instagram or whatever you got to do, then you got to start paying attention to the W's will eventually outweigh all that other stuff.
Yeah, and I think that when she got injured in a fight that I was supposed to cover for Invicta in Vegas about, I don't know, a handful of years ago now. And at that time she spoke like at best broken English.
Mm-hmm.
So to see her doing interviews now in English, I think that that's going to go a huge part in the UFC pushing her.
Yeah.
We can argue, unless you're Anderson Silva or Fedor Emelianenko, you really almost got to speak English. And whether that's right or wrong is not for me to say. It's just the way that,
it helps.
The American, it helps unless you're a super mega star. But if you're trying to build a name, I think being able to speak English, being able to go on Twitter and go back and forth with people in English, that's big. So I think that's an improvement.
But the two examples you just used, again, they didn't speak the greatest English, but they racked up a hell of a lot of wins. So
but that's what I'm saying. They were freak show. If Alexa Grasso was doing, switch kick knockouts and stuff like that, no one would care if she even had a mouth. It's just when you're kind of just doing your job professionally, picking up wins, being able to speak English and being able to get your message across, I think is huge. But that's big. Jumping back to Barber, my only thing is that she's young. She's only 22 years old. She's got 2 losses in a row now. I feel like it is a little bit of a crossing point right now in her career as far as, you're only 22 years old. You've lost 2 in a row. Where do you go from here? Are you gonna be a world champion, or are you kind of getting used to losses? And I don't think she's getting used to losses, but I think that's something that can happen, especially someone so young. She can, I don't know what other options in life she has right now at 22, but I think that she needs to win her next fight. If the UFC does her dirty and gives her, Joanna or something crazy like that, then they're not going to. But you know what I'm saying? Some killer from China or something comes in that's just on the wiping people on the other side of the planet, and they give it to her. Something like that would be doing dirty, because she needs to get a win at her age in order for her to keep developing. And I think
I don't see her getting dropped only because the way Dana White spoke about her again. She lost and he was still high on her just because of her attitude and her her willingness. We saw it at the end, like as the third round. If that was a 5-round fight, I wouldn't be. It would have probably been a split decision, and it would have been like a coin toss. You know what I mean? Like again, she just it really did show she just needed to get this one out of her system. I'm pretty sure she wins her next fight.
I agree with that, and I think she does too. In the last 2 years we've seen Dana White release Sage Northcutt and Paige Van Zant, so it's not like he's not afraid to just go, hey, I'm out on the game that I was trying to work, and with the young kids and bringing them in. I mean, realistically, Macy Barber, throughout the whole history of MMA, wouldn't really even be in UFC right now. She'd still be building up her name and stuff on the smaller circuit. But I think she will get a win. I don't think that the UFC. I think the UFC wants her to get a win, so I think that they'll feed her somebody that she beats, 9 out of 10 times, barring some kind of fluke. But big win for Grasso. Really interested to see what they do with her next. Brings us to the main event. This one went my way, kind of the way I saw the fight going. Ended earlier than I expected, but goddamn, while it lasted for 2 rounds and 35 seconds, it was an entertaining fight.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
imagine you were jumping out of your seat when Burns dropped him early on. Seemed like he had a chance that he kind of let slip away a little bit.
yeah, I mean, he admitted it. I mean, think about Burns. He competes in almost, if he's not doing MMA, he's always doing grappling competition. So it's not like he doesn't know what it was like to lose, but obviously to get that close and then still lose, especially with all the personal stuff involved because him and Usman had history. Emotional loss for him, but he admitted in the post-fight interview that he did get overly excited, so maybe he had. I know Rogan said he thought he might have had an adrenaline dump, which probably could be the case just because of what we saw happen. I mean, they noted like how his mouth was open in between rounds 2 and 3, I think it was. But in the beginning, yeah, it looked like what's funny is Usman admitted that that's a punch that when they trained together, that was always a punch that he got caught with too when they were used to spar each other. So it's like one of those moves that like remember how we were talking about how they know each other and there's things that people in the gym know about. So apparently that was one of those things. So Usman, even he said it was more off balancing than painful. I mean, he actually looked fine afterwards. We saw, how he looked afterwards. But now, with the 13 title defenses, now that he's definitely one of the better standing welterweights in welterweight UFC history. It looks like, unfortunately, we have to see him in Masvidal. It's not unfortunate, but I mean, I kind of get why it should happen. But I mean, that seems to be the fight that's going to be coming down the pipe for us, later in the summer, probably.
Yeah, first of all, with Burns, I thought after Burns dropped him, I thought he kind of ended up getting in a. It was shortly after Burns dropped Usman where Burns was on his back in the mat, trying to kick his knees out and trying to suck him into his guard. And I thought that allowed Usman to recover at a time when you had him at least off a little bit. Whether I don't know how bad he was hurt, but something was up. You hit him, you dropped him, and I thought that it became kind of a little too gamesman at that point. I felt like Burns should have got up off his back immediately and tried to pressure. I don't think the results would have changed. What we saw with Usman was world-class level stuff. The jab, his strikes, the patience, the way he was kind of able to lose the first round, dissect his opponent, and then come out and really basically have a flawless victory after he was dropped. I mean, from that point on, it was laser jabs, laser right hands, and I mean, just switching hands, switching jabs, just fought tremendous. As far as his next fight goes, yeah, I didn't want to see the Masvidal fight, a week after the last one. I certainly don't want to see it now. I guess this is where I kind of, and I'm biased because I'm a Wonder Boy fan, but I feel like, is there not a reward for fighting? Like that's my thing. Wonder Boy fights Luke and Neil, a couple of the younger prospects, dudes who really he shouldn't have even been fighting. Guys who, if he loses to, basically ends his career. And he goes out there and he's knocking off these young contenders. And I just feel like that there should be some kind of reward. I mean, he's the only like super active or not super active. I mean,
And
he's had
that
two
that'd be a nice
fights.
fight too. That'd be a nice fight to see him and Wonder Boy, Usman and Wonder Boy. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
No, I think style wise, I think it definitely adds a different dimension to
It's
what
fun.
we've seen
Yeah.
Usman fight. You know, and I mean, if you look at the other guys, I mean, Covington hasn't fought, right? He beat Woodley, um, but he's only got the one fight since the. I don't know. I'd much rather see Wonderboy or Covington than Masvidal at this point. I think you could give Masvidal as much of a training camp as you want, and I think Usman's going to 49-46 him
Well,
basically 10 out of 10 times.
but that was the whole thing with that fight. So like, you have two sides of it. I know Usman, when he made his call out at the post fight press conference and in the cage, he talked about how Masvidal had the ready-made excuse because it was short notice when they fought. But on the flip side is that it's like, you didn't finish a short notice guy. He took you to the end.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I don't mind it so much if they do it. But you got to remember who runs the show there. It's an entertainment, what endeavor. They want the if it's hype, then they want the hype. So that's why we're gonna get. We already know we're getting Poirier McGregor 3 in the summer, and this is probably something we're also gonna get. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do another stack card like with the one we're getting with the next pay-per-view with the 3 title fights on it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that with McGregor on a card. I don't think he'll allow it to happen. But I don't know. It's just not a fight that I feel like the UFC's done a terrible job. We've talked about it from stuff. It's a terrible job with Masvidal since he got his big wins. I mean, if he loses again to Usman, then where's he at? Do people really want to see him fight McGregor and fight Diaz? I mean, I guess at that point he's in the Diaz part of his career, and he's just fighting Nate Diaz every other weekend. But I just don't. I feel like they've dropped the ball so much. I understand they probably want him to try to get a world title because then they can really promote the hell out of him. But I just don't see why, unless at this point you just want to use his name value to give Usman that final push to superstardom. But I just don't see. I don't see what the UFC gains by it all that much. It seems like it's a loss if everything goes as planned and Masvidal loses a decision. It seems like it just kills any momentum that he had, and I feel like the UFC has already killed his momentum. The fact they weren't doing him versus McGregor, instead of Cowboy last January, tells me kind of all I need to know about what the the protection of certain fighters and stuff. It just seems like that's where the fight should have happened, but. Huge win for Usman. Haven't always been. I mean, I talked about
Gaethje McGregor should have happened in, what was it, July of 2019?
Well,
Whenever it was supposed
that's
to.
what I mean. Like,
And now we know how that kind. If the leg kicks were such a factor with Poirier, now we know how that kind of would have went. You know what I mean? If it was Gaethje McGregor, Gaethje would have kicked his legs out, off his body.
Mm-hmm. But I'm sure the UFC would rather have had Masvidal or Gaethje almost expose McGregor than Poirier. I mean, Poirier's great, but he's not the. I think in the UFC, when you talk about an entertainment business, Masvidal wrecking McGregor would have been something that they could have. Masvidal would be on the.
To milk it, forever.
He'd be. You'd go to the gas station, you'd see Masvidal's picture on a Monster can or something like that. So I don't know, but huge win. The Wonder Boy is the fight that I'd like to see stylistically, and it makes me. It would kind of be the final thing. Okay, well, Usman's cleared out the division. I mean, starting to have rematches now. It doesn't do all
That's good. I mean, it's hard to argue against that because I mean, when you think about it, he's already, he's got the wins over everyone else that, right? He's got wins over,
Masvidal.
He beat everybody he's supposed to be.
Woodley, RDA, Maya. Yeah, I mean, there's nobody else in the division.
Yeah.
At least high ranked in the division that. And I just think that
I know they're trying to do. I mean, he's still sick, but because Khamzat is kind of like, the new hype that they're trying to do, but he's still sick, so you can't do anything with him. Leon Edwards, he fought and beat already in 2015. So, like you said, it's really that would be Wonder Boy seems to make a lot of sense.
if he beats Wonder Boy, then he can go do whatever the heck he wants, and I
Yeah.
won't say, you can't really criticize him. The dude's cleaned out his division. If he wants to go have a super fight against anybody, if he wants to go box friggin' Canelo at that point, I don't give a crap.
Mhm.
As long as you clean out your division, but especially Wonder Boy getting up there in age, I feel like that's the one fight um, that would be kind of cool to see right now, and makes sense. And uh, it's the fight that I want to see. I'm not interested in Leon Edwards, Usman. Colby interests me just because their first fight was a war, and um, I'm curious. And then we saw how Covington did against Woodley, so I'm wondering if he is actually able to improve himself. And not that Masvidal can't improve, but we're talking about a dude with approaching 50 fights now, been fighting for a long, long time. You know,
Well, and he hasn't been shy about how he wants to close out his career
uh
and
huh,
when he wants to end it. So, I mean, I don't blame him for wanting to get the fights that pay out the most. It's what he should do, especially when you look at, if you get into fighter pay, then you can't really blame them, especially now if they can still pull off $1 million, $2 million paydays with whatever under the table deals they get additionally. I'm not going to fault them. I mean, we do get we do we only do get fighters for a minute when you look at the grand scape of the sport, the way that we're seeing guards change these days.
yep. You strike while it's hot. That's why
Mm-hmm.
some of these fights I like to see happen, and why I'm wondering why some have not happened. But I just wait for this pandemic to kind of get over. I feel like there's a lot of guys that we just haven't. I feel like the roster has just been shrunk down. I feel like we're just. I don't know, and maybe I'm delusional. Maybe there's not that many other guys, but I just feel like when we're starting to get to the points where we're seeing rematches after rematch after rematch, then obviously some of the international
Yeah,
talent stuff is being
yeah.
held.
So maybe towards the end of the year when things get better, 'cause things seem to be getting better.
When we can start having crowds, when people
Yeah.
can free travel from country to country again, stuff like that is obviously gonna. I mean, especially for Bellator, Bellator is is got the hands kind of tied right now because a lot of their international fighters are. It's not as easy for them. They don't have the private jets that or they do. I'm sure we're talking $1 billion companies, but
Mhm.
not as maybe as easily accessible as Dana White personal jet. Flying to go pick somebody up, but fun event. There is an event this weekend. We're not going to break it down, but Lewis Blades. I expect Blades to maul from start to finish. Um, and again, the only comment I have on that card is, God damn it, how do we not have Oleanek versus Arlovsky? They got these guys fighting
Mhm.
other guys. Like, that's the one thing Bellator would have done. Bellator would have done Arlovsky, Oleanek. Kind of would have been Ukrainian versus Russian, two old school
Hey, we
dudes.
might still get it.
We might still. I'm shocked that we haven't. I'm
Yeah.
shocked we haven't.
No, I'm
But
saying like we might get it that night because you got.
oh, there you go. You might be right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's this weekend on ESPN Plus. Like I said, we're not going to break that down. There'd be plenty of other podcasts and other sites you can check that out. But until next week, we're
Like
looking
this
at it.
one.
There you go. allaccessmma.com, where you can find our podcast. We do look to have a guest next week, tentatively
So don't go
scheduled.
spoiling it and
No,
mentioning
not going to
it.
spoil any names, but one of our alumni from the show that's starting to make some moves. So
Hopefully.
hopefully that all works out next Tuesday. Until then, again, check us out at allaccessmma.com. You can follow me at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Check out Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Ed, until next week. Best of luck trying to figure out ESPN Plus fight this week, and either that
Yeah,
or enjoy your beers. One
I'll
of the
read
one of the
about
twos is
it.
happening.